Welcome to the deep dive. This week, we've gathered some sources that, well, they don't just describe world events. They really show the global order being fundamentally reshaped almost in real time.
Yeah, it feels like that. We're looking at some pretty historic strategic shifts. New alliances forming in the Indian Ocean.
And these dramatic, maybe even unprecedented changes in Middle Eastern security setups.
Plus some really high-stakes economic plays, especially in the energy markets.
So our mission today is to connect these dots. We're taking these events that seem separate, diplomacy in Varanasi, drone strikes in Doha, issues at Russian refineries.
And distilling what it all means.
Yeah.
For you, the listener, trying to make sense of it. The big theme, really, across everything we looked at, is how this global upheaval is just forcing all countries, to change their decisions, rewrite their strategies.
Absolutely. And we're focusing on, I guess, three main areas. First, India, how it's really consolidating its geopolitical position, particularly in the Indian Ocean.
Right. Then second, this really significant development, the formation of what some are calling a new security mechanism among major Muslim nations. That's a big one.
Definitely. And finally, the economic side, how some players are showing real agility, capitalizing on conflict, especially in the oil trade.
Okay, so let's dive into that first part, what the sources are framing as a major geopolitical game changer. India's moves in the Indian Ocean.
All right, let's unpack this. It kicks off in Varanasi, September 11th, 2025. You have PM Narendra Modi meeting with the Mauritian PM Pravind Jugnauth. High-level talks.
And they ended up signing 4 crucial agreements. But this wasn't just a routine visit. The sources really emphasized this was a deliberate step to lock down a critical alliance.
And there was serious money behind it, too, right?
Yeah, the economic backing sort of underlines the intent. India pledged $80 million, what's that, roughly 5,600 crore rupees.
Okay.
And crucially, it wasn't just presented as, like, development aid. It was consistently framed as funding specifically to boost India's strategic, military and logistical footprint in the Indian Ocean.
So, very targeted funding.
Exactly. They also agreed on boosting partnerships in the usual areas: technology, blue economy, infrastructure development, standard stuff.
But here's where it gets really interesting, the kind of aha moment in the sources. India securing what they call strategic entry into the Chagos Islands area.
Yes, and that is, well, that's the big prize here.
When you talk about global chess, this feels like a major move.
It is, and what's absolutely essential for you listening to understand is the location significance. The Chagos Islands, they sit right near Diego Garcia.
Diego Garcia, the name rings a bell, obviously. Huge U.S. base.
Huge is an understatement.
Yeah.
For decades, really since the Cold War, it's been the cornerstone of U.S. power projection in the entire Indian Ocean and into the Persian Gulf. Think Gulf War, Afghanistan, Iraq. It was staged from there.
So India gaining entry nearby, that's not just, access to some remote islands.
Not at all. It represents a fundamental presence right next to the historical anchor of Western military power in that whole region.
So what do the sources say about the practical advantages? What does this do for India?
It gives them a massive logistical and surveillance advantage. Historically, controlling this patch of ocean, that was the domain of the U.S. and the U.K.
Right.
By partnering with Mauritius, India gets this crucial foothold in the central Indian Ocean. And the sources use this phrase, something major powers have, quote, dreamed of for decades.
Wow. Okay.
It fundamentally redraws the maritime security map. And it gives India leverage that, directly counters other influences, like the growing Chinese naval presence and their infrastructure projects near key sea lanes.
Given how sensitive Diego Garcia is historically, are the sources mentioning any friction, any pushback from, say, Washington or London about India setting up shops so close?
That's what's interesting. The sources we reviewed are pretty quiet on any immediate friction.
Which could mean?
Well, it might be the most telling part. It could suggest a sort of tacit acceptance, perhaps, that the power balance is shifting in the Indian Ocean.
That India's rise, maybe as a partner to counterbalance others, makes this kind of move. Well, maybe inevitable now.
Possibly. It really highlights how today's power plays are maybe more about diplomatic maneuvering, finding these partnerships, rather than just head-on confrontation.
That is a really profound strategic shift. But India's approach isn't just about bases and big checks, is it? The sources also point to something else.
Exactly. Let's shift to what you might call India's sort of whole-of-nation strategy here. The relationship with Mauritius goes way beyond just economics and defense. It delves deep into culture.
Right, the cultural diplomacy angle.
Yeah. The sources are careful to note that PM Modi, during the visit, kept emphasizing the deep cultural and historical ties. It's India consciously positioning itself not just as an economic or military player.
But as a cultural and spiritual power, too.
Precisely. Actively using that soft power as a real tool of foreign policy.
And we saw examples of that, didn't we? Like during PM Jagannath's visit to Uttarakhand. He received, what was it, Chardam Prasad?
Yes, and products from the House of Himalayas brand. These aren't just niceties, they're symbolic gestures.
What's the significance there, diplomatically speaking?
It's very deliberate. The Chardam Prasad, for instance, it taps into shared spiritual heritage, grounding the modern relationship in something deeper, something civilizational.
It's branding, almost.
It absolutely is. It's branding for India Inc., if you like.
Oh, yeah.
Connecting partners directly to its cultural core, it makes the relationship feel less transactional, more sticky, more resilient.
And then there was that amazing little detail, wasn't there? The really granular one that shows how high politics can connect to, well, everyday commerce.
You mean the Banarasi sari?
Exactly. PM Jagannath's wife buying one, and then apparently offering to help open a Banarasi sari store back in Mauritius.
Yeah, that tiny, almost personal detail, it carries real commercial weight. Well, straight away, it signals high-level endorsement, basically direct advocacy for market access for Indian textiles. But it's more than just, one shop.
It elevates the brand.
It elevates the cultural identity of the Banarasi sari onto a global platform. It potentially creates a major high-profile entry point for weavers for the whole textile trade back in India.
So it's culture directly driving commerce, soft power translating into potentially real economic benefit for local artisans.
Beautifully put. It shows how these different strands, strategic, economic, cultural, are all being woven together.
Okay, that's a fascinating picture of calculated diplomacy and soft power now. Let's pivot, quite sharply actually, from these strategic wins to sudden, pretty traumatic instability in the Persian Gulf.
Right, because a really major and frankly dangerous turning point seems to have been reached in relations between Israel and the Arab world.
This was triggered by, what, an Israeli airstrike?
An Israeli airstrike, yes, on Doha, the capital of Qatar. And this wasn't just any target. The strike specifically hit Hamas representatives.
And these weren't just any representatives.
No, crucially, they were individuals actively involved in the ongoing, very sensitive negotiations about the Gaza war and, critically, the release of hostages.
Wow. Okay, so hitting negotiators mid-negotiation, Qatar's reaction must have been strong.
Immediate and fierce. They didn't just condemn it. They flat out accused Israel of intentionally trying to sabotage the peace talks by taking out the key people involved.
And the fallout.
Instant. An emergency Islamic summit was called, hosted in Qatar.
Bringing together Arab and Muslim nations.
Yes, and the sources confirm they strongly condemned Israel's action at that summit. But what's really critical here is how they viewed it.
Go on.
They didn't just see it as an attack on Hamas or even just on Qatar. They saw the targeting of negotiators in a neutral capital city. They saw that as a direct, unacceptable threat to regional security itself and to the whole diplomatic process.
That level of unified anger is significant in itself. But did anything concrete, anything foundational come out of this crisis?
This is where it becomes